Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to eSports Report, presented by the Xbox One, official console of Major League Gaming. It's time now to dive straight into the action from Gfinity this weekend as we kind of take a look and assess, go in a little bit of detail. Not going to sugarcoat anything. If a team didn't play well, we're going to call it as it is. And we're going to take a look and start off with the 8th placing team from Gfinity, Team Elevate. Now, of course, here's a look at the squad. Replays, Slasher, Select, and Classic. What do you guys think of Elevate's performance?
Well, of course, they were playing with half and half squad.
Yeah.
Replays and Slasher on Denial, Select and Classic on Elevate.
Good friends, though.
Yeah, so Replays in an interview said that they literally had no practice going into this event together. And just before the maps, they would start talking about strats or like who runs a bow, who runs a SMG. And they had no really expectations for this event, and they end up getting top 8.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't ask for more. I mean, maybe we predicted them to finish, you know, top 4. They get upset by Elevate in the quarterfinals of the knockout stage, which is unfortunate. Infused, what did I say? Elevate. Elevate knocked out Elevate. Yeah, that can happen. But yeah, I mean, going into the tournament with 2 subs, I mean, pretty good placing. You walk away with $2,500. You know, they go 2-1 overall with an 8-3 map record. Not that bad. Only loss coming to Infused, but you know, take a look at their game mode stats, a little more in depth. You know, hardpoint Ben, they go 3-1, beating opponents by an average of 22.5 points, and their team KD is a 1.19.
That's impressive
for a team with no practice. That's really impressive.
Yeah, 3-1, 1.19 KD. They've just focused on killing. Managed to jump on their hard points, pick up a lot of points as well. S&D 2-2 record. Doesn't surprise me. Conflicting strategies. You know, you're just so set in a way of how you're going to play it. Then to be thrown in with 50% of a brand new team, it's going to be difficult to win those. But still, positive team KD at 1.07. Uplink. This is what's really surprising to me, JP. 3-0.
Yeah, 3-0 with a +7 score difference. So, I mean, that was their best game mode throughout the whole weekend.
Let me find out.
Only 3 maps. Only 3 maps that they lost were to Infused.
Right.
And I mean, that's a great showing. They only had 1 loss in the whole event, and unfortunately, that was in that winners bracket where it's single elimination.
Right. Take a look at some player comparisons of players who kind of shined and players who somewhat disappointed a little bit. Replays. This is just
he had a great event.
A 1.32?
He had the highest KD at the event.
Let me find out. Then I was about to make replays.
The highest.
Whoa.
He had the highest KD at the event. 11 maps played at 1.32 KD.
All right, Super Slayer replays.
Yo, Denial about to make a role swap. Aggressive SMG replays.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say
Slayer replays.
It's kind of hard to say player who disappointed because it was one map or one match that they lost. Plus, it was a half and half team with no practice going into it.
Really,
so it's kind of unfair. But if anyone, it would be Slacked, who was coming off a great event in UMG Dallas. He had a 1.2 overall KD there. He drops over to a 1.03, still positive. I mean, it's hard to say someone was a disappointment when they only lost 1 match, and that was because. And they end up getting eliminated because of single elimination.
On the other hand, they should have really beaten Infused. Like, when you look at the teams on paper, you say, okay, Elevate should be able to handle Infused. I got a blessed first round here. They don't got to play FaZe or EnVy or anybody.
You would have thought they would have handled them with, to be honest, somewhat ease.
Right. So like, you got to have someone who disappointed. Like losing to Infused is disappointing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
If you're a Red Rebellion fan.
I would agree with that. I mean, Slacked overall performance, went negative in hardpoint, 0.98. That's unusual. You don't really expect that. Slayer rating of a 23.9, unusual. Uplink a 1.02. I mean, yeah, okay, not the flashiest of stats, but I am kind of with JP somewhat. I think you have a pickup team who wasn't expected to do anything. They had no strats going into the event, and they still managed to place in the money. I give him a good old pat on the back.
Yeah, and Replays played absolutely out of his mind. A 1.46 uplink KD while capping almost 3 caps per game. And then a 1.41 S&D KD, as you can see here at the top of your scoreboard, 10-6 on a 2 streak with 2 plants.
Why do you think that is? Is it just him playing a different role?
He just played out of his mind.
He's just playing extremely well now. Because, I mean, you don't really expect that from Replays.
I mean, I feel like it's just like, hey, I'll be the aggressive SMG, why not? And he just happened to drop a massive amount of kills.
Yeah.
He's also playing with players that he felt comfortable with. I mean, Slacked and Classic are like his friends in real life as well.
That is true. That is very true.
kind of UMG Dallas reminiscent, though. Doing really well in pool play. You know, they don't drop a single map. They 3-0 IGI, which was 100% expected.
Yeah.
Expected.
Then they 3-0 Epsilon, who the Epsilon EU looked pretty good all weekend long,
They
too.
look great. Like, when you think about that Epsilon team, on paper at least, or I think probably a little bit better than Team Infused.
Joe, Reedy, Rated, and Mad Cat. Yeah, Mad Cat, 100%. You know, top 2 BAL in EU. So,
Yeah, we'll get into that
Team
later
1
on too.
EU.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, I was considering Swanee still like an EU player, but I guess he's in North America.
Swanee's now a North American analyst.
All right, we took him from you.
We'll give that to Matt Cat.
But yeah, like again, you know, really, really good pool play performance, and then come into bracket, and then you get upset by Infused.
In a game 5.
Yeah, in a game 5, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, that has to suck. It really does. But still, you know, props to Infused, I guess. On that, we'll talk about them a little bit later on. If there's anything different that Team Elevate could have done in this Game 5 Search and Destroy, what would you say it would have been? Were they being too passive in these later rounds? I mean, you saw before, down 5-3, they win that last round, make it 5-4. Did they need to change anything up here? I mean, Slasher at 2-8 definitely isn't assisting.
Maybe just practice a little more before going to the event.
Yeah.
Is that really what it just came down to?
They literally just went into this event.
Just blind, pretty much.
And S&Ds, you really want some type of strats or some type of information on what you're going to be doing beforehand.
Right.
And they just went into this. I mean, was pretty good for just a pickup team.
Right.
But it's unfortunate to lose in Game 5.
And a player like Alex T2 was clutching up all weekend long. He played really well, especially against FaZe in the semifinals. We saw him clutch that 1v2 in that round 11. So yeah, honestly, just practice a little more before going to the event. Obviously, this roster will not play together again for the foreseeable future because they'll go back to their respective teams.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, top 8, Elevate. Good job.
How do you think Denial would have done, or Elevate would have done as their regular teams? Yeah, their full
they would have
rosters.
handled Elevate, Infused. I keep on doing that. Like Elevate and Infused, I keep on messing them up.
Do you think they would place like 3rd, 4th?
You're third. I think third.
The Denial squad or the Elevate squad?
Both.
Elevate.
Why not?
Elevate get 3rd because you lose to FaZe.
Do you think Elevate beats Denial?
I think Denial would get the.
No, I'm saying if Denial's not there, if it's
No, but he said both.
I'm saying both.
If both Denial and Elevate team were there.
In the scenario, if this is the full Elevate squad, they beat Infused.
Elevate win this game and then lose to
Right.
FaZe.
You lose to FaZe and then you beat ON in the 3rd place match.
Yeah. Same thing.
The Denial roster.
It
depends where they get seeded into the bracket. Like.
Well, no, just if you replace Denial with this squad here.
Oh. Yeah,
I would still say they place 3rd.
Would have been interesting to see them play against FaZe. That would have been close. It probably would have been a better fight than.
Yeah, because the winner of this would have played FaZe.
Right.
So that'd be a nice
Like
matchup.
Infused looked not so bad against FaZe. Like LXT gets that 1v2 clutch in game 2.
It was just unfortunate they had a matchup against them twice. Like first in group play and then second in the bracket.
It's very weird that happened.
Yeah,
the bracket played out that way. That should not really.
I mean, yeah, but that's how it was drawn. And what was it? The second hard point, you know, Urban gets that weird team kill for no reason. He just shoots Marky B in the back.
That was absolutely bizarre.
They kind of just threw that and went away. They were up like 22 points going into the second rotation of Hills. So I don't know. I mean, with the Denial roster, it depends like how they would have gotten seeded. Like again, 3rd. Like if they just replace this Elevate squad.
Slacked almost clutches this. Oh.
That was for round number 2.
Almost.
That was for a 2-0 lead for Infused.
No, this is game 5.
That's game 5.
This is not game 5.
This is game 5.
Oh, I could have sworn on the overlay it said 1-0.
JP, go home. You're drunk. That was game 5.
Okay.
It's fine.
That's for all the marbles, JP.
It's for everything.
Sure.
You played on marbles when you were a kid, JP? I didn't.
No, I didn't.
I didn't play with anyone's marbles.
Oh, so you never played marbles with a kid?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, congrats, Team Elevate. 8th place. Good stuff. Pick up team. Proud of you. We'll go straight into 7th place.
Yes.
Because why not? Team EnVyUs coming in 7th. And I think going into the event, they had a bit of a buzz around the squad, knowing how well they could be. Octane, JCap, Aqua, and Looney. One of the best uplink teams in the game,
If
period.
not the best.
If not the best, as it was proven throughout the weekend a couple of times. We'll take a look at their game modes in a full screen play. They go 2-2 as a record. And I believe it was 9-6 on map count. Hardpoint 2 and 4 underperformed.
Yeah, that was their struggles throughout the whole weekend.
Why was that?
I don't know. I mean,
If you play OG, that's tough.
yeah, they play OG and they play FaZe.
Yeah, so you're gonna
probably
lose.
the two best hardpoint teams in the game.
Okay, that makes sense.
What's weird though is that they're winning their games by an average of 13 points.
Yeah, so it means that they're losing by a very small amount.
Right.
Which is good. I mean, they're keeping it close, pretty much.
I guess that's a good way of putting it.
S&D record 3-2. They had a positive record in that with a 1.39 S&D KD for the team overall.
Absolutely nuts.
That's ridiculous.
And then Uplink, as we expected, they end up going undefeated. The last one being the infamous 16-15 or 16-17 win on comeback Uplink over FaZe.
Which we might show you.
That was sick.
It was pretty good, not gonna lie. But yeah, unbeaten and Uplink as expected. We'll take a look at player who shined. No surprise here. It's going to be Octane at 1.29. Slay rating 33.59. Hardpoint KD at 1.25. 1.18 Uplink KD as well. A player who disappointed.
Yeah, again, it's hard to say disappointed because they did have to play FaZe and Optic.
But still, I feel like this is the one player who, in those situations, turns up.
This is a player who you picked up for this season after they don't qualify with Prophecy. A player you bring in to be your main aggressive SMG to really dominate. And
he just got shut down.
You go up against Scump, you go up against Zuma, top two players right now in the game.
Yeah.
So extremely tough, but still, you got to show up in those big series, you know?
And I think Aqua, after his experience at Champs, is now a player that people associate to turning up in those big games. So yeah, don't get me wrong, they had to play OG, they had to play FaZe. But still, you expect him to put up a little bit better numbers than that.
Yeah, he had a 0.78 versus FaZe, which is,
that's right.
I mean, if they want to beat FaZe, everyone's basically going to have to go positive. And
right,
that was kind of
have a
pulling
bad
him down
game
a bit.
against FaZe.
Yeah.
You just can't do that.
But I mean, it could also be attributed to just his aggressive play, and it's either you go really massive and you're gonna go put up those positive numbers, or you're gonna go pretty negative and put up those caps and hardpoint and caps and uplinks.
But a 0.78 is just that's just bad.
That's you're just getting shut down by Bowels.
Now here's a question:
long range.
EnVy versus Optic Nation. Who wins?
EnVy.
So is EnVy a top 3 team? Are they? Well, I say, are they a top 3 team?
Top 3 team at this event. I think Denial would give them a run for their money if they were at this event.
We saw JCap tweet. He's like, we only lost to OG and FaZe. I think we're the 3rd best team at the event. But doesn't matter. If you're drawn against OG or drawn against FaZe, whenever bracket is tough, right? Single elimination, that's really tough. But still, whoever you're drawn against, you still got to go up and oh well, I had to play Optic Gaming, so I lost to them. I would have beaten everybody else.
Well, if there was a lower bracket, they could have.
Right, I'm saying if there's a lower bracket,
unfortunately there wasn't. So.
Right, if there's a lower bracket, it could have been a different story.
All right, if there was a lower bracket, does EnVy finish 3rd at Gfinity?
I think so.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think there was anyone else really who outclassed this team.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I think Owen looked really good all weekend long too. Mochilla was going off.
I mean, they got absolutely dismantled against Optic Gaming.
Well, they played Optic Gaming.
Right, but what I'm saying is you look at EnVyUs' performance against OG, where it goes to a game 5 where they arguably should have won, and then Optic Nation's performance against OG where they got absolutely dismantled.
3-0.
Wasn't close. There was no part in that game.
Well, I mean,
did I sit there and go, Owen is winning this?
Owen should have won the S&D. They were up 4-2 and they just lost 4 rounds in a row. That's unexcusable. Uplink 2, you got to say if you're gonna steal a respawn, you got to steal the uplink from OG.
Right, but they didn't.
But
which is my point. So I feel like EnVy easily at the event 3rd best team.
You got a crappy bracket draw.
True.
Yeah.
You got to play OG in pools. That's tough, but
I mean,
talent-wise,
honestly, I think they have to look at that. This is what's interesting. I think they have to look at that game against OG and kind of say, you know what, we should have won that. Because if they take that in S&D, think how different the bracket could have been. You would have had FaZe and Optic Gaming on the same side, potentially.
OG would have.
I mean, the draw would be completely different. But let's say
it would have been OG FaZe.
Let's say
what I'm saying is EnVy would have had an easier run.
Right.
Potentially could have seen them in the grand final. But kind of going into a whole as COD eSports right now, JP, you brought up the interesting point about Denial, of course. Denial versus EnVy. If they played now in front of us.
I think Denial wins.
Really?
Denial was the only team in the league to take an uplink off, or no, one of the only teams to take an uplink off EnVy. I think they could really give them a run for their money. I think it would go to a Game 5. It would just be whoever clutches up in that last S&D.
Right.
But that's a really tough call.
What's shocking, though, is that the player who shined is Octane, your main Bal. If he's doing well and your aggressive SMG is struggling a little bit, like, that's kind of strange because if your main Bal is shutting down the other main Bal and he's really opening the lanes for you,
yeah,
you're just not.
I mean, that's just the SMG just not winning against the other SMG.
Yeah, like that's struggling. Like if it's like if your main Bal is winning, like your SMG should be winning.
Right.
So.
But then think about the players. Zuma attach. Like at that point, like you can kind of see why his stats are a little bit lower than potentially you would have expected.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But like you got
even so, you have to You do have to show up against the best teams in the game to kind of be considered one of the best. And at this point in the game, this is the match that JP was referring to a little bit earlier on. Uplink comeback, EnVyUs 11 points, FaZe Clan 8 points. There's still 3 minutes left on the clock. You see, now
this was such a great game, dude.
This
arguably the map of the weekend.
Arguably one of the best uplinks in AW.
Best uplink
top 5, 100%.
Top 5. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that Denial Stunner one at UMG Orlando was really good.
That's probably my favorite uplink.
That was a great ending, but this I feel like was a great.
I feel like people haven't appreciated fully yet the ending to this game. People always think about TJ. TJ gets that interception, right? Then he gets a pick 6. People can like envision that play by play. But I feel like because this just happened at the weekend, people still haven't processed like what actually happened at the end of this game. It is absolutely insane. Whether it goes down as one of the best uplinks,
I mean, you got to look at
we've had some fantastic.
Yeah, it's like you said, Denial Stunner, Orlando,
OG FaZe at Columbus. I mean, that was great because it was like something new. Like we never had uplink before, and everyone was like, "Oh my god,
that was
this
the
is
turning
a great
point in the game. That was the turning point as well.
Everyone was like, "This is great to watch."
We hate uplink. We hate uplink. We hate uplink. Then you see OG. You see FaZe. And you see probably one of the best maps.
That was like the turning point for uplink as a game mode.
Even
it really was.
TK Envy from Season 1 playoffs.
That was a sick one.
That was great. That was a great comeback.
Players making so many mistakes.
All the way double OT. That was absolutely nuts.
But have we seen any that have been on like different maps? I can only think of like
Detroit,
FaZe,
ON versus Envy, Detroit,
and the originals.
Detroit champs, TR versus FaZe.
Dude, that was insane.
That was insane.
Just
OG FaZe at champs was also pretty insane too, if you think about it, because FaZe came out of nowhere and just absolutely dominated them on comeback up.
But it wasn't like a.
Well, it was.
I feel like that point, they didn't have the epic ending. I know what you're saying.
That's like Brock Lesnar, like F5ing the Undertaker, and the guy's just like, "What's going on? No, like, stop! Is this really happening?
The streak is over."
But
literally.
But top 5 in the conversation. There have been so many good uplink games.
I mean, this is kind of the final minute of it here. You see, Octane jumps in for 2 points, so. Envy back into the lead, 60 seconds left, and you're thinking, all right, just slay out, get some glass control, maybe play the drone for 15 seconds. JCap, picks up a couple of kills here and gets drone control as well. So like final 40 seconds, you're thinking, okay, this is looking great. JCap makes a smart play.
This is the play of the game. They just clear out the base. That would have been another 2 points for Envy.
Insane play from Zuma.
And they end up taking this and scoring. Look at this pass that comes to Clayster. He ends up scoring a 2-pointer.
Clay gets a kill. Boosted backwards. 2-point play. And that's with 25 seconds left. So at this point, you're like, all right,
I think it's over. I'm like,
it's done. They just made play the game.
And you see bottom left of your screen, blue Looney is just going to pick up the ball, throw it in.
He manages to get the animation off just in time, puts it in the enemy base, and then again, you're like, all right, well, FaZe can just lay out. Clay tries to throw it, and just throws way too far to the right-hand side there. It doesn't look close to going out. He throws that drone out. It's good. You see a couple of people exchange the drone. Time runs out.
Everyone thinks FaZe wins. Everyone thinks FaZe wins, and then you see Enable's face like, oh my
Clay gets up, Clay's like, oh, never mind.
Oh, crap, we actually lost. And you get to see in this run any kill come exactly what happened. Looney just squeaking in.
The last second.
I mean, last millisecond.
I was going to say, the last millisecond.
The last second of the millisecond.
It was a crazy ending to what was one of the best maps at Gfinity. For now, though, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we return, we're going to take a look at the teams placing 6th and, of course, 5th. Be right back.